You're listening to Operator.
Yo vi la sangre de un niño brotar. Yo he visto a un niño llorando su suerte y me pregunto por qué tanta muerte, tanto dolor, tanto napalm. Pues vi la sangre de un niño brotar. Yo vi la sangre de un niño brotar. Yo he visto a un niño bajo un cielo oscuro gritando al futuro: ¿cuándo has de llegar? Y mientras otros padres, otros niños bajo un cielo abierto le cantan al tiempo que no ha de pasar. Yo vi la sangre de un niño brotar. Yo he visto a un niño llorando a su suerte y me pregunto por qué tanta muerte, tanto dolor, tanto napalm. Pues vi la sangre de un niño brotar. Pues vi la sangre de un niño brotar.
Hello, welcome to the Focus Show. Hello again. Thanks for tuning in. Today I have a super special guest, Katía. In my mind it's read Truijen, but
that's beautiful.
That's a very Spanish way of reading it. Thank you for being here, Katía.
Thank you, Nuria.
I'm so excited. So today is going to be one of those, a little bit of a hybrid show, right? So Katía has brought up some music. She is a researcher, sound researcher, musician, curator, programmer, and a long etc. So we're going to try to make the show reflect a bit that, have a bit of conversation, but also give you time to listen as per the title of the show. But I wanted maybe at the start, Katía, that you could introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about what you do and who you are.
Yeah. Thank you, Nuria, I read your email. Was it last week or the week before? I lost track of time already. It's in 2026. But I really enjoyed your email. That's also some of the things that I like, that I do on a daily basis, is writing emails to people to invite them to come together, often around practices of listening or music, whether it's for Rewire Festival that is coming up again, or with my collective, which is called Loom, which means the weaving machine. So we're a collective of 5 people. When we weave our practices together, we have all different backgrounds. I'm also always have been making music. So I think also through that, this is, I think, a bit like how I orient myself in the world, like through improvising, which I used to do with friends when I was playing in bands, but also really improvise in the city. I think that's also a common interest of ours, like the urban cityscape, and how you can improvise in the city. I'm always also in the train between, mostly between The Hague and Rotterdam and Amsterdam. So I work in the 3 cities. I live here in Rotterdam. And I'm really also, maybe this is also something we will speak about, or that we will listen for this afternoon, is like how, the way we listen influences also how we orient ourselves in the city.
That is
that's a way.
fantastic intro, and indeed we have a lot of common interests, which is also something that I hope to transmit during the show. I just want to make a note that we started off with Pablo Milanés, porque yo vi un niño sangrar, and I wanted to make a little bit of a political start today also, that I think is an element that runs through our practices too, that even if we're making art or trying to, or involved in areas that are, I want to say that everything is political, and that also being here and taking a stance towards all the damage that's happening in the world is also political. So that's also why after us there's Sari Musa, Nicholas Jar, and the latest work, whose title I'm not going to try and repeat because it's very long, but it's very beautiful, and it's all about standing up and not being numbed by all the damage in the world. And we're gonna carry on now with a little bit of a back-to-back, so stick around with us, and thanks again, Katía, for being here.
Thank you.
Imagine moving through a day of your life, listening with someone else's ears. Very special to give yourself time to listen to the environment like that. And of course, sound walks do exactly that. They invite you to listen for longer times. And the point is that the longer you listen, the more you get immersed. Slow down for a moment and make time for listening.
So what are we listening to?
So the sounds that we're hearing are from 40 years of sound recording and composing with environmental sound by Hildegard Westerkamp. And with his piece, she asks, what is our relationship to the environment? Is it the natural environment interesting enough to us? Indeed, we know enough about it that we want to protect and save it from further ravages. The sound environment has much to tell us. It simply voices all activities. And if we dare to really listen, we may sense the depth of the environmental trouble
Vancouver.
The world is facing.
On March 17, 1977.
So we just heard her speaking, and she brought together many of her recordings in a fluid stream of listening, but also softly speaking, as we heard, about issues of soundscape ecology, as she calls it. So it's really an invitation to open ourselves to the complexities of listening and the possibilities it may offer to, what she says beautifully, I think, recalibrate our own relationship to the environment.
This is also something that is very, I don't want to say in vogue, but it is gaining more and more attention in the cultural scene right now. I wonder what you think the impact of that is. Is it changing the way we look at the world we live in? Is it really making us change?
Emily Carr used to paint the BC forest.
I like how we speak with Hildegard now. So yeah, or maybe
with her words, I will lead you through this forest today.
Actually more like listening with her, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's something where that many people feel an urge.
Nothing is still now. Life is sweeping through the spaces. Everything is alive.
Well, this is precisely it.
Yeah.
The air is alive. The silence is full of sound.
I think it's interesting, like these 40 years of recordings, when we imagine what these places maybe used to look like or sounded like back then, and what they may sound like today.
Yeah.
I guess a lot has changed. And it also reminds me a bit of Anat Singh, with the mushroom at the end of the world, but about this idea that we live in these ruins, or capitalist ruins, but that there's still life going on, and that we still have company, like human and non-human company, and we can still sort of smell. I think she calls it the scent of the like autumn aroma. So there's still, you can still listen collectively to what is there, right, and be attentive, and maybe then change your attitude a bit. Yeah.
Let's dive full on here. So listening. And also, this is obviously tap into the archive. Like listening, archiving are super central parts of your practice. Why is that? How did you end up here?
In this very room with you. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm also a bit of an introvert person, so there were always many people speaking around me. But I think I used to be very introvert actually, but then I started to make music and and also perform with that, and then like recognizing different types of listening spaces, living spaces as well. Maybe listening is living, I don't know. So whether it was performing at my house with friends, or in squats or legalized squats, or like music venues or things that we would organize ourselves. Maybe that's how it started. But I'm also I studied media studies and art and research, and so I've always really been interested in like what are the lenses or filters, maybe more in this sense, that we can make sense of the world around us and the way that we try to make a living or live together. And I really felt like, I think I really continued this this bringing people together around practices of listening or like making music together. Now that takes shape in the form of publications often, so bringing different voices together in like publishing formats, or in context programs at different festivals, or with my collective. We always also use listening a lot as a way to also situate ourselves in particular locations. I'm also more as a researcher interested in how we can listen to landscapes that have been erased or exhausted over time. For instance, here in Rotterdam, we live very close to like where used to be a huge bird breeding area, the Beer. I'm not sure if you heard of that. It's actually where the harbor, or the Europort harbor, expanded into the Tweede Maasvlakte. So it's at Hoek van Holland. It was like a huge area of dunes, and I also found like sound recordings of the birds breeding there. And then in the late 50s, early 60s, it was completely erased. And I was just trying to think of like, how can we listen to these landscapes that are no longer exist? And I'm really interested in what are the things that we are not hearing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. There's this beautiful book, Listening After Nature, by Mark Peter Wright, who also joined us at Rewire a few years ago. And he also like asks, or he's talking about this sort of sensibility of listening with like a landscape or with each other, and to also see like how we're responsible parts of our soundscapes, right? And to listen also for like what we are not hearing, and what that maybe tells us as well.
It's funny because Anna Tsing also co-edited this book, Arts of Living on a Damaged Planet, which I absolutely love.
Yes.
And I remember I keep going back and forth with it, but one of the sentences that stuck with me, I'm not sure it's an actual quote, but it's something that I took out of the book, is learning to look through the lens of what's no longer there.
Yeah.
And that look, listen, sense, it's all for the sake of the same idea, and that has really been fundamental in the rest of, or in how I've continued to look at these practices.
I'm immediately thinking of also a colleague or friend who also lives in Rotterdam, Golnoush Hashmati, and she's one of the members of Gamush, a collective, a diasporic collective, and they record, or actually try to bring together and preserve everyday sounds from Iran, from different regions, and think about what that means to gather around these everyday sounds, and also things that are being erased or forgotten, or so I think the archive, right, is a way to gather around maybe what's lost, but also as a source maybe to think about what what other possible futures may sound like. Yeah.
And attuning ourselves to what we cannot listen to, right? Like there's this book that my brother's a forest engineer, and he gave me listening to the Songs of the Trees by David G. Haskell. Haskell. And it's amazing because he describes, this is a scientific book written in a very poetic sense. So it's also not about, maybe it's an acceptance of what we cannot hear. And therefore, because of that, we just don't erase it, but we let it be, and we acknowledge our incapacity to just read everything through the anthropological lens. That, which is also something super cool.
Yes.
I wanted to switch now, maybe, or not switch necessarily, but like, and again on this topic, the topic of listening, the topic of archiving, epistemic
imaginaries.
Yes. Yeah. Tell us a bit about, this is the latest book. It's co-edited with Brandon LaBelle, who's also like a big boss, big force in listening. Why? What is it about? What can we expect?
Yeah, so the subtitle of the book is Learning as Festivity, and that's something I'm also deeply interested in. So like what type of different learning situations are possible. And we started gathering all these, actually it started because Brandon has been like hosting seminars also at Rewire Festival as part of the Context program over the last years. And he was working on a book series which is called Party Studies. So taking the party very seriously as a site of learning and like learning together. And I am also like, I was telling you before about how I also really enjoyed organizing things myself and with others and friends and finding spaces to do that. And that for me was also always a very like interesting learning process, right? And like negotiating space and improvising together. And so we started a lot about all these self-organized schools or like learning situation or alternative education practices that we found or that we knew of. And then we brought that together in a book over a couple of years. And there's some beautiful collectives there. There's like Varia that you may know from Rotterdam. It's Amy Pickles, one of the members, who talks about the struggles also of like operating as a collective. They also recorded the sound of their server, which is part of an audio collage that we maybe play later. But also like a Vogue school in Sao Paulo. There is Zara Malkani, a sound artist based in The Hague now, who started Karachi La Jamia, which is also a kind of a school project in Pakistan. And she also recorded a lot of sound along the Malheur River. Taking into account indigenous voices that are often not taken into account when we look at the maps of those rivers. So there's all kinds of workshops, a lot of para-institutional initiatives that maybe started at art schools, but there's one beautiful example, which is like a kitchen that was built in an art school as a prop for a film project, but then that film prop actually became a school in itself that could like open up at night and was hosting the actual interesting exchanges between students and teachers. And I also teach sometimes, and I work together a lot with students from different departments, from like art academies or the conservatoire or universities that are somehow all involved in like listening and sounding. Maybe we can speak about that later too. But I'm just really interested to bring all these approaches to sound and to listening together and then see what happens. Yeah.
Do you want to play maybe a little bit of that audio collage from the book?
Maybe you recognize some of the things I mentioned in it.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can find it.
Kids, or especially for people who are working, the end goal is that they must have an essence of the form. But perhaps with the elderly people, the essence could be to connect with dance and music, to connect with the arts, and also to put the movement into their body.
ये पानी पिछले साल नज़िया रिपोर्टिंग के लिए तो फिर हमने इसका टेस्ट कराया था ये कि 6 महीना तक पानी खड़ा था ऐसे ही वो मूल नदी पे और उसका मैयार सबसे ज़्यादा बेहतर है।
So there is something very specific about all the classically trained dancers also decode it. It's now uncoded and distorted. If I invite you for a dance performance, I need to give you three exact. One is the coordinate of the space. Where is this in the world? When is it in the world? And who is doing it?
Tem umas gata bonita que se tu for elas vão te sabe o que é
So that sounded like somebody walking.
Mm-hmm.
Was that you?
Yes.
Woo! What were you doing?
I was waking up very early, which I enjoy doing a lot. I think this must have been in June, maybe last year. I think it was around 5 a.m. in the morning. And I just started walking through, like, from my house. And then I think I walked up to the Maas River and along the quay, and then passed by the market and was just recording sounds, taking notes. Yeah.
Is that something that you do often?
Yeah. Although I must say, last year I was a bit afraid of dogs.
Okay.
But I got over it. So now
Okay.
I think, for 1 year I was not making so many early morning walks, because that's also a moment when you encounter many dogs, of course. So I think from now on I will continue this practice of doing very, very early morning walks. And actually last year I also combined this with voice messages of friends that I asked to record their very first walk of the year on January 1st.
Ooh.
And to speak about what they were hearing. And so you were always also hearing the noises in the background. So someone was in Sicily, like on the beach, so you heard the waves. Someone was in Berlin, there was still like fireworks going on. And it was like, it was really interesting to bring all these like different soundscapes together. And this was actually, I made this for the Radio Worm Radio Relay, which also happens this weekend.
Yeah,
Again.
that's
Yeah,
an
yeah.
amazing initiative.
Yeah. So yeah. Do you make early morning walks?
I don't do walks here. I grew up in the countryside, so I do that a lot in the countryside. And I used to always go swimming in the morning.
Oh, that's the best.
Yeah, I was a swimmer. I've been a swimmer all my life, previously competitive and now not anymore. But water really puts me in a perfect mind space for everything else.
What kind of waters were you swimming in?
I was swimming in the swimming pool because I was training, but I really like the sea, so I try to go to the sea as much as I can. I also try to do that here. Canals are not like the sea, let's be honest, but they do the job of putting you underwater. But I'm interested in what, I guess doing the recording was an important part of it, but also there's this whole other side of your work, which is to do with space. And I suppose that also had a layer. When you do these walks, you're also thinking about the city. You're also thinking about the places we inhabit and the built environment. How important has that been? Have those walks been for what Loom, for instance, is doing now?
Yeah, we do a lot of walks with Loom as well, and actually very much in connection to water.
Ooh.
Yes. So we're also interested. Actually, some of us have also been professional swimmers before, but we're also very interested more in I don't know, maybe also thinking about the future, like how water here is actually really coming from all sides. Oh, it's nice that you're taking a record out of its sleeve. So I mean, yeah, our future in terms of or like how we relate to water is of course very uncertain. Water, like sea levels are rising, water is coming from all sides, from the rivers, there's more rain. So we've been also making what we call wetness walks. And this idea of wetness is something that Dilip Dakunya and Anuradha Mathur have been writing a lot about. Especially my colleague Michiel has been, has been really invested in that. So we've been thinking about how to live with wetness and how to live with futures of water and water bodies, and all taking different approaches to, like one water body in particular, which is the Rhine River. And actually the landscape I was speaking to you before about, the Beer, very close to Rotterdam, that's sort of the mouth of the River Rhine, if you could call it that, in this like river delta. And what we do is we invite people to like on walks also with us, and then to look for wetness. So where do we see or find or hear wetness? Like, I mean, before this was all water, right? Where we are here.
I had to take this record out because it's called Wet Marriages.
You always bring it with you?
No, but this was very, I don't know, it felt like a cue, ridiculous not to use. It's a piano and live electronics recording from a really good friend of mine, Chico Rivas. But I find it interesting what you're talking about water, because we also had here on the show Di Fang and Colette Aleman, and they've both been working a lot on water lately, which I feel is related also to what I was saying earlier of the things that we usually don't hear, or what we can attune ourselves to. It's very interesting to me that you do that through an urban practice or the urban space. But I find it also very incredibly relevant in the time being. What I wanted to twist towards a bit more now was programming. I think those two practices are very, very related. Like sensorial experiences and sonic experiences do have implications in the life, in the built environment and where we live. So I wonder if you can tell us a little bit more about how you approach that, for instance, in Rewire, in Ultima, in Oslo. Also, you've done some curation using different spaces in the city, using different venues in the city and programming artists in all these different spaces. What is your approach? Why is that important?
Yeah, I think that the city carries many different rhythms already. So maybe in those early mornings I was like trying to tune into particular rhythms, and also, I don't know, find people that have these morning rhythms as well, or like what are the spaces that are opening up early or like later on. And I think also, the festivals that you mentioned, both Rewire or Ultima, they also have particular rhythms. And a festival, of course, has I think especially in the evening there's this kaleidoscopic like music and performance program going on with many things happening at the same time, and where you have to choose where to go. I think it's nice, like both Ultima and Rewire are like very much city festivals, which is very I mean, not all festivals have that, right? They're very much embedded in the city, and I think they also developed really like in dialogue with how the city emerged over time. So for instance, Rewire, and this is something that also Bronna Keesmaat, the director and music programmer of Rewire, can speak a lot about. Also, maybe it's nice to say that at Rewire, so on the 10th of April, we'll be launching a book which is called Further Listening.
Oh, okay.
Which we also try to listen to adventurous music and sound, and also like how it has evolved over the last 15 years. Also Rewire Festival started with a few venues in more like also disused spaces before, and now there's like 25 venues all over the city. I mean, I think space for music, of course, has very much changed over the last decades. I think the squatting ban has been extremely important factor in that since 2010, when it became harder to, forbidden to squat, and also host music there. So yeah, and there's of course there's gentrification going on. I mean, very much here so as well. So it has become really difficult in cities in the Netherlands, but I think throughout Europe and other places to host music or to come together around listening and sound. But yeah, so at Rewire, I'm really interested also to find spaces where we can gather around listening and to find a different rhythm during the day. So at night there's all this music going on, and then during the day to open up spaces for people to come together and reflect upon what we are listening to or for, and also to really think about the context of those practices, right? So the local practices of artists that they engage with, or and as you said, it's all political as well. So the types of collaboration that happen across geographies, or also across time. So all the lineages that there are that artists are building upon, and
I think the point you made about spaces for coming together and for music is very critical. That's particularly why I find your practice interesting. There's many reasons, but the capacity to speak about the need for space when it is dedicated to another function that is not commercial, that is not money making, and when I think about that, I think about the underground that's trying to survive through these liminal spaces, this in-betweens, these taking ownership of something that is underused. So to that point, amazing that you brought up this wedding band, because a lot of the spaces that we pay tribute to right now are also related to the efforts of people that took over them and that created something beautiful out of them. So that's something that should continue to happen.
Yes.
Let's hear the music a little bit and see what else you have in store. We're 15 minutes away. I see some movement over here for the next ones coming up, running super fast. But if you're tuned in, thanks for sticking around.
يختبئ أزرق في جسدي يعزف الآلات يشرب النبيذ واقفا في المصعد متكئا على الصواريخ كيلومتر في الكارنتينا مجرى في 18 من كانون الثاني كيلومتر في التامور مجزرة في 20 من كانون الثاني كيف
So, who is this?
It's Maisa Jalad from Beirut. And this track is called Holiday Inn. And it's from the album Marja, The Battle of the Hotels, which she released, I think, 2 years ago. And here she sings about part of the Lebanese civil war that happened 50 years ago in Beirut. And it's a history that is rarely spoken about. She also contributes with an essay to this book, Further Listening, that is coming up. And I'll just read a little bit about what she said about it. So, before releasing the album, a few family members listened to it. My sister-in-law said, "I'm afraid this will be seen as biased because you choose a battle where the outcome was the defeat of a certain group." To which I responded, "At the time I chose it, I did not know the exact outcomes. The only outcome that was obvious was in the buildings that remained, the architectural evidence. My interest was always in the architecture that made the battle possible. And this remained the point of view I adopted in the album, the point of view of buildings. To me, nobody really won the war. Everyone lost the city, everyone lost their neighbor, everyone lost." And later on she writes, "I realized that taking the point of view of buildings rather than humans served me well in resolving the inability to write a unified history. Oral histories are valuable, but their complexities and contradictions often discourage us from writing history. Performing and speaking about this album has confronted me with a society still reeling from the effects of the Civil War, but for the most part willing to start talking and open to other methods of telling this story. And it has exposed me to the long-standing nature of resistance as well." So so just this idea of like actually looking at history through buildings and then using music to open a space to speak about it, I think is extremely powerful.
And well, it's repeating a bit of what we've already said, but it's the combination of the different senses that makes the experience. It's also very atmospheric, the sound. Now we're no longer listening to Maïsa, but we're listening to Noor Shokon, also Lebanese, if I'm not mistaken. It's called Vocal Bodies, but it's also a very surrounding type of sound. We're coming out towards the end of the show, so I wanted to just end the interview by asking you, what are you most excited about for what's coming up in the near future in your life?
Well, I'm very curious about the rest of this track to start with. I'm really excited about the students that I'm working with who are part of a program which is going to be called Staging Sound, which will be on the 9th of April, so the opening program at Rewire Festival. And that's also the opening of the Context program, where we have like also Maisa, but also many other artists. Tomorrow there is also a new part of the lineup announced, so you'll find out who's also coming to speak about their work. And so Rewire I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to maybe more morning walks. I'm looking forward to swim in the sea, learning more about your water records. And you? What you're looking forward to?
I am looking forward to... So I made two decisions, reading more and writing more. So I'm looking forward to seeing if I can actually manage to do that before the year ends, and
we still have some time, I think.
End up being like, oh, all these plans that you made for yourself and you didn't. But yeah, because I feel like by doing that, you also stay a minute, stand still, and feel the world in a different way. So we're gonna let this play for a little bit and maybe put one more track before the guys come in.
طبعا لانه هدول ايديالز، وقت بنقول نحن سوليد، نحن لنكون سوليد نحن مرتبطين بمنظومه عن جد يكون عنا وعي ذاتي. الشيء اللي عشناه ونخبيه من هون we're accentuating the trauma.
We're moving towards the promised land, understand me. Official.
I'm glad you're home. Now, did you really miss me? I guess you did by the look in your eye. Now lay back and relax while I put away the dishes. Then you and me can rock back. You can ring my bell, ring my bell. You can ring my bell, ring my bell. The night is young and full of possibilities. Come on and let yourself be free. My love for you, so long that I've been saving. So tonight was made for you and me. You can ring my bell, ring my bell. You can ring my bell, ring my bell. I'm glad you're home. Now, did you really
Okay, so on this fantastic Ring My Bell, we're gonna stop ringing your bells and say goodbye. I am so disappointed that we couldn't talk about a gazillion more things, but I guess this is the start of more coffees and more chatting. And for all of you listeners, thanks for sticking around, and a huge, huge thank you to you, Katía, for having come.
Thank you.
See you very soon.
See you soon.
Goodbye.